How's it going, Mr.
Good,
Lane
good.
Moser? Thanks so much for having time to do this. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
appreciate this. Well, Lane, no one can introduce yourself better than yourself. Please introduce yourself to the Cool Careers audience.
My name is Lane Moser.
Yeah.
I am a longtime recruiter here in Houston, finance and accounting. So basically, anybody that has a degree in accounting or finance and are in their respective space, in their career path along with their degree, I recruit for those types of people.
I see.
So anywhere from a staff accountant or a staff analyst or a staff auditor or a staff treasurer, all the way up through CFO, tax as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so we'll make sure that you get all plugged at the end so everyone can find you if they're looking for a recruiter. Do you call yourself a headhunter, Lane?
Oh, I call myself a recruiter, but I've been
Yeah.
called headhunter. I've been called worse. It, nothing. It doesn't really matter to me. Just so you call me. That's all I care.
Just
Right?
as long as they call you,
Just
exactly.
as long as they call me, it's all right.
I understand how important that is in recruiting, for sure. Well, Lane, how we became connected actually was really on a social side, right? Like my headhunter was a colleague of yours. And so
Yes.
I think most of our relationship kind of built at happy hour many moons ago.
Right, right. That's exactly right. Yeah. I've been recruiting for 16 years, and Amy, our common connection,
Yeah.
had been, was actually one of my trainers. Had been recruiting, for a little while even before then. So yeah, absolutely.
Yay. Hey, Amy Rains, the Rainmaker. She's amazing. She actually placed me at Transocean. And
Yeah.
prior to that, she placed my husband, who was in finance, at Hess many years ago. So we're still colleagues here. And, I really always talk about how important, having these type of connections and having a network, how it's important to, your career, your movement, your growth. Can you talk a bit about how that's been important for your career as well?
Well, like you said, from the candidate side, it's a lot more important to have a relationship with a recruiter than people might think. We encourage people that even if they're not looking or not in an active search, to meet with us and get in what we call our pipeline. Jobs sometimes come up very quickly and go away very quickly.
Right,
And if you don't
right.
already have a relationship, if I don't already know you and already feel comfortable with you and feel like that, you'd be a good match for the job, then I'm obviously not going to place you if I don't know you. But I also have to, again, feel comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
so it's pretty important to have that relationship before you actually need me.
Yeah, that's my sentiment. I'm always kind of pushing that for people to find someone because it really is kind of a connection. It is a relationship that you kind of grow over time. Someone you can just call over the period of your career. So I'm glad that you made that point. Thanks so much. Now, I kind of wanted to talk about you just for a second before we kind of get into why I really invited you here. I know
Okay.
on your LinkedIn profile that you used to be in accounting and finance yourself and made a
Yes.
swerve. And so how did that come about? And was that kind of an easy choice for you to make?
Yeah, there's more than one of us out there that had that.
Yeah.
I started off in the Big Four. Actually, it was the Big Eight at the time. Started off with Arthur
You're dating
Andersen, which
yourself. You're not that old, Lane. You're not that old.
Big Four now, but it was Arthur Andersen, which many people remember. I
Hmm.
was there for a few years, and then I went off and was an accountant for 8, 10 years or more, actually.
Yeah.
Um, and I always knew that I always knew that I didn't really fit in accounting, and the reason is because um, I just felt like it was using half of me. Some people really enjoy accounting, and I didn't really enjoy accounting. I put myself through school by
Mm-hmm.
doing sales and in sales positions. And
Okay.
so when the way I made the transition, so I was always looking to make the transition to something else from day one I was, but never knew what that would be because I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to lose all that education experience, all that work experience. And one day, which is the story for many of us recruiters in finance and accounting, you sit down with a recruiter and I ask the question, how did you get in? Because I saw their background, just like you see
Yeah.
mine. And I asked the question, how did you get into recruiting? How did you make this? And they told this story that just lined up exactly to mine, that they'd always been looking for something else. And I thought, wow, this is perfect. I'd like to be a recruiter. And then since then, I've learned it's one of the top 10 what they call hidden professions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't go to school for it. There's no classes for it. You
Yeah.
kind of fall backwards, into it. And it's usually within your specialty. Like engineers will do engineering recruiting generally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Healthcare people or other types of IT people will usually do IT recruiting. So it's usually something you're drawing on from your background. You have an interest in sales, which is essentially what a recruiter is, but you have a lot of background in what that particular field is. I usually use the phrase when I sit down with a new client, like a CFO or something, and I say, I either, the position you're looking for, whether it's the controller or a senior accountant or accounting manager or a finance professional, I usually say, I either did that job or I sat right next to the person that did that job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I know the lingo. I've been there. I've been in the corporate world. I know what it's like. And so it's easy for me to relate to my candidates.
Right. And I'm sure the clients kind of feel like you know what you're talking about a bit more, knowing that you've been on the other side, been where they, you know.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it goes both ways.
Right.
When I talk to them and they understand my background, they know that they don't have to, start from ground zero and tell me what a debit and a credit is or what a thing is.
He's like, you know this.
I've already been there, so we have a common connection, and many times at this point in my career, a lot of the hiring managers that are some of the upper levels are people that I knew from public accounting.
Yeah.
Some of my peers, or they knew some of my peers. So we talk about people that we knew or know. So from back in the day. So
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where that network becomes really important as well.
Absolutely.
So are you, do you still meet your candidates? Is that a kind of an old school type of relationship building? Sometimes you just kind of connect and you pass off information. You might have a phone conversation. I definitely know that for myself, some of the headhunters that I've worked with, I've never even met.
What we do is one of the sort of the founding things, and I was talking about this with our LinkedIn representative the other day. We use LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's familiar with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
As recruiters, you have a representative that you talk
Yes.
to. And I had a video call with her the other day. We were talking about this thing. One of the things that we founded our little firm on, and we're a partnership, is based on our common belief that the recruiting world was going in the wrong direction, that they were moving more towards not meeting people in person, whether it's a phone call or even a video call or that type of thing. And so we really believe, and again, one of our core values and core things we started on was meeting everybody in person, because you really have to build that, in my opinion, you really have to build that personal type relationship. If I'm going to sell you and be able to really describe you to my client and be able to do the service that you probably expect, I need to really get a more of a, in-person relationship with you and understand, more about you and who you are sitting right in front of you, eyeball to eyeball. And the flip side is also important. I meet all of our clients too. As the clients expect we meet all the candidates, we meet all the clients too. So when I describe a client to you and I tell you about their environment and their work environment, what it's like to be in their office, I've been there.
Right.
So it's not, and so many recruiting firms, even some of the larger ones, are going towards phone calls, video calls, because it's cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can do more volume. Our particular firm, we're not about volume. We're about relationships. And all recruiters will tell you that. To a certain extent,
Yes.
relationships in recruiting is everything. But we're about the old school continuing to build those really deep relationships. In fact, we take it a step further than even an old school recruiter would do. We'll go as far as to get very involved in the whole interview process. We'll spend a significant amount of time preparing each candidate for that interview. We don't act just like a scheduler. We don't schedule an interview and then say, here you go, here's the date and the time, good luck. No, we'll spend at least 45 minutes or an hour with you on the phone, helping you to prepare for that. So no matter what stage of your interview skills are in, you're going to be better. That's what our hope is. Right. We want to make you as comfortable as possible that when you walk in, you'll feel comfortable, that you know who you're meeting with, exactly how to approach it, even potentially some of the questions that may be asked. And if not, to that granular detail, overall what questions and how to approach different types of questions that you're asked.
I like it because I'm sure a lot of people don't have that type of guidance, not anymore, which is one of the reasons why I started the podcast, honestly, because I'm on the recruiting side and I see how most people are, just less informed on what to do, how to act and how to perform, how to answer the questions and just the ins and outs. And most people are just nervous, ill-informed, and just either they haven't been on the job search very long, or maybe the whole nervous part or the energy.
No, absolutely. You brought up the nervous thing.
Yeah.
That's one of the main things I deal with and I focus on, because so many people are nervous going into an interview, and justifiably so. There's the one in a million that aren't, but everybody is to some degree. I think I would even be, even as many interviews as I've done. There's a lot on the line. If you're particularly interested in this job, you're meeting somebody brand new for the first time, and there's just a lot at play here. And so what I do is I go through and give them tools and visualizations and all sorts of things to get them calm and get them in the right mindset. I tell people that I can tell you the mechanics of exactly how to act and exactly how to do things and how to respond. But if I can get you in the right mindset, where your head is in the right space, then all of those things happen naturally and you'll feel comfortable. And and I hear, even when they come out and we debrief and we go into extensive debriefs, they all talk about how incredibly helpful it was. I get, I don't want to really toot my own horn, but I get told all the time, I've never experienced anything like this before. And I'm, you're the greatest recruiter I've ever had, that. But put that aside. Forget it.
No, it's all good. If you're good, you're good. That's all you have to say about that one. But listen, you're kind of in the mix. You're kind of, you're seeing candidates from all walks, from high and low. You're talking to companies that are, small mom and pops to corporations. Are you seeing a bit of a trend of what's happening now due to COVID? Are people still hiring or having onboarding? What's happening out here? Can you give us a bit of a snapshot?
Well, let me answer the question of what we focus on first, and then I'll tell you, because some things I can speak on and some things I just have no information on, just, what everybody else has information on from the news, right? We focus on companies that are about 50 million in revenues up to 2 or 3 billion. So what we would call small to mid-size. That may not be the definition for some people, but 50 million to us is a small company.
Okay.
Now, the companies below that what we would refer to as mom and pop.
Okay.
And we occasionally will do something for them, but not generally. They're usually looking for a different type of. They're probably not looking for a degreed, accountant.
I see.
They might be looking for a bookkeeper or something like that may have an off degree or something that we don't really specialize in.
Okay.
So we deal with like a little bit larger, companies. So here's what we're seeing. And Houston is very unique, particularly now.
Okay.
We have two things going right now. Houston got the double whammy. And if you live in Houston, you know this, better than, anywhere. And we got COVID, which that's having the impact that's unprecedented. And we really don't know what to expect from that. But what we do know is, and people who've lived in the Houston area for a while do know what happens when oil prices drop.
Okay.
And a lot of this will depend on how long the oil prices are down. So we have these two factors that are really, again, unprecedented. Never in the history of Houston have we ever seen two major things like this happen at the same time.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, the question is what's going to happen? Nobody knows.
Okay.
But I can tell you what I think.
Okay.
What I think is that we haven't recovered fully from the 2014, oil crash. A lot of companies have, and a lot of companies have reformed under other names, and private equity folks have come in with money and invested and formed new, oil and gas E&P companies. But there's been a lot of the service companies who've had, good, unique technology that have done very well. And then there's some that just haven't. We had just tremendous amounts of bankruptcies that came out of 2014. And there are still companies that I'm aware of that still are planning to go bankrupt, even before all of this. They were on track for bankruptcy from 2014, and they just haven't filed yet. Mm-hmm. Now we've got COVID and the new oil price drop. So they're just dead men walking, for lack of a better, term.
Okay.
What's going to happen to all the other oil and gas companies? Some who are well capitalized, certainly will survive. Some that aren't, that are heavily leveraged, we're going to have another huge round of bankruptcies. And, a lot of people went through that one time already, and will be going through that again if they stayed in that space. So, and then even if the oil prices, and I think, this is important to understand, even if the oil prices rebound tomorrow, and we saw this in 14 and other oil, drops that have happened in the past, that all of the confidence doesn't come back overnight. If oil prices tomorrow spike up to $50, $55, $60, it takes a long time for the confidence of the C-suite or the CEOs and the CFOs to feel comfortable that they're not going to go down again. Because it's just like the stock market. It's really based on if you feel good or not. The confidence level people have, almost is more important than the specific economics of what's happening. It's what people feel that's going to happen. And so that will take, likely, as it did in 2014, will likely take years to rebound. So you may have your job, if you're lucky, but you will likely not have a raise for a while, which happened in 2014. We've just started to have people get raises. There'll be other benefits like bonuses and 401ks that get cut back by a lot of companies. One thing that I heard a lot out of 2014 from candidates that started looking after a couple of years were mad because they hadn't got a raise in the last couple of years. Well, their bonus didn't have a bonus. And the first thing I told them is, I said, Nobody did. I mean, you understand that you're upset at your employer. They cut back on your bonus, but at least you have your job.
You're employed, yeah.
And that's everybody was in the same situation. There was very few companies that were not in that exact situation. And in Houston, it's not just the EMP or what we call the upstream companies. Mm-hmm. It's the midstream, the downstream, the chemical, producers.
Right.
And then the service providers, the oil field service and manufacturers that support directly that, industry.
It's a domino effect for the whole city.
Right. And then it goes much larger than that because you have just steel people that supply, plate steel and all sorts of other types of things that you wouldn't normally think of as oil and gas companies. All of those companies are affected. So the scope of what happens to Houston in an oil crisis is much bigger. And it's even bigger than just that, because we found coming out of the 2014 that even companies that had absolutely no connection to oil, perhaps they had all of their business was out of state and they just happened to be headquartered here in Houston and they did something totally different. They pulled back as well. They had hiring freezes. They had different things that they did with their companies too, because the sentiment or the feeling in Houston was just this down, depressed type, feeling. And it permeated throughout all companies with very few exceptions.
I see.
So I know this sounds a little doom and gloom. We will come back. But it's important to understand that we're in a tough time, and that people just need to cut back on their budgets, do whatever they can, and stay safe really right now. Try to stay alive. If you stay alive, that's the
what's most important, right? So what I hear, so I heard a few, words. Does that mean you freezes, pauses, psyche of fear and anxiety from the corporate side, which trickles down to the candidate side? So should we see much less hiring, much less onboarding, just pause altogether, full stop? Is that your anticipation or your thoughts?
There will be companies that hire, but there will be hiring freezes. There will be the candidate's psychological piece to this too, and that is they get to the point where before they get mad that they haven't got a raise for 2 years, they're in the first year or so, they're just happy to have a job because several of their employees their colleagues got laid off. Mm-hmm. And so what they start to think is they don't want to be the one that, right now they have, let's say 3 or 4 years with this particular company. If they change jobs right now and go down the road, they're going to be the newest employee. And if some other blip in oil prices happens, they feel like they're going to be the most likely person to be laid off, because they're the newest one that, came in. So, So they start to go, wow, I'm just happy to have a job. I'm just going to, sit here. So, and really, once those positions start coming online in a year and a half or a year, it's okay to make those. It really is okay to make those moves. That's the pattern that we've seen. It is okay. This usually doesn't happen, just one right after another. Once there's a recovery in oil prices, it usually stays up, for a while. So, so if you waited, a lot of people waited until, end of 2019 to switch jobs. And now they're the lowest person, in that company or the latest person to join that company right now. And now we have another crisis. Had they joined that company, let's say 3 years earlier, they'd be in a lot better position. So my personal opinion is once they start to hire and once those companies start to rebound, that's the time to make the move if you want to make a career move, is make it on the, on the front end of the wave. Don't wait until the back end. It's just like the stock market, really. Try to catch it, before it's at its peak, before you make your move, because inevitably there will be another drop coming and you don't want to be underwater.
I see. So do you see, or do you anticipate any hiring this year at all? Or do you think, we'll have to wait a full cycle of a year?
COVID, it's going to depend a lot on COVID. We, interestingly enough, here at our firm are more busy these last couple of weeks, which is really surprising, than we've been in a very long time. And I think it's more by luck, really, because you couldn't have planned any of this stuff out. We have several firms that we're working with that are actually totally insulated from the oil and gas market. Generally speaking, most of our clients are somehow related, but are totally insulated from the oil and gas, market. And they are hiring and they're moving forward. Now, they're not interviewing candidates in person. And I've been wondering for a while, because of COVID, even though we've been moving through these video calls, when's the start date?
Right.
When's the onboarding?
Right.
What's going to happen? Are they going to, get to the end of this process and then make an offer and then say, well, after, COVID, whenever that is, give 2 weeks notice to your current employer and then you'll start. And that could be, who knows how long from now.
Right.
Recently spoke with at least one of them. And by the way, most of these companies are pretty well financed and the positions are key positions.
Okay.
And so what they've told us here just recently in the last couple of days, what their plan is their plan is, since, these are key positions, they were hard to find. And now that they've found the right people, what they're going to do is they're going to actually hire them, extend offers, hire them right now. And they're going to either give them send them a laptop and have them just kind of poke around a little bit, or even give them a vacation until they can come into the office. So they're going to really almost bench them, but make sure that they have them. So when all the restrictions do get lifted, they can come right in the office and they can, not miss a beat, which is, that was surprising to me. I didn't know what was going to happen, but it kind of makes sense given the condition, financial condition of the company, and also, the nature of how key these roles are.
Yeah, and good talent is really hard to find, and you do have to pick them up when they do make themselves available. So that's good that's happening in these particular situations.
If you are able to hire, if you're a client, here would be my recommendation to you. I think, one of the well-known CEOs, considered the CEO was Jack, Welch, and he wrote, of GE back in the day. And one of the things that he always spoke about was he was always looking to turn over the top or the bottom, 10, 15, 20% of his company and upgrade it. Now's the time. If you're looking to do that, now's the time to do it. There will be candidates on the market that normally you would never see.
Yeah.
Because there will be bankruptcies, there will be mass layoffs of whole departments. Sometimes you think, well, if they're laid off, maybe they're not good. No, if a whole department gets laid off or a whole company goes away, great candidates will be on the market. If you are looking to upgrade your talent, now is the time. Or as soon as we get out of the COVID thing, now will be the time, because you will find incredible talent on the market that you will not normally see. There just won't be available, and there'll be lots of them.
So your advice to candidates is to not stop their search, that to continue to look for roles that are out there or keep themselves active on LinkedIn?
Yes, I would say so, for a number of reasons. One, you just may find I would say this. if you're real happy pretty much in your role and you're just looking because you don't think you get paid enough, right? Then stop your search. Because you don't want to get in a, you don't want to put yourself in a worse, situation, because most companies are going to start freezing their increases and stuff like that.
Right.
If you're looking for other reasons, like you think a layoff's coming, or, there's a myriad of other reasons. If you have other reasons that you're looking, then I would suggest that you consider continuing your search. But if it is just purely just about money, everybody will be in that situation. You might as well ride it out right where you are.
Right, right. This sounds like some really good information and advice. I really appreciate all of your insight today. This has been so great. Lane, I'll make sure that your information is on our posting, but where can we find you on LinkedIn? And is there any other platforms that we can find you?
Well, you could pretty much find, in our world, LinkedIn is kind of everything.
Yeah.
So we certainly have a website. Our firm name is Caliber Recruiting, CALIBER, recruiting.com. I can be found either doing that, on LinkedIn as well. We have a spot there as well, or you can go right to my page, my personal page, which is Lane Moesser, and that's LANEMOESSER, and I will be the only Lane Moesser that you will find.
There's only
I'm
one.
the only Lane Moesser that I'm aware of, spelled that way, on Earth.
On Earth. There's only one. There's no one to one. There's nothing else after you. Thank you, Lane. I'm so grateful for your time. I appreciate all of your insight and all of your advice. I'm going to definitely share it with my Cool Careers audience, and I'm sure they'll be very happy to hear everything that you're saying. We're going to talk again after COVID.
Okay, perfect. Would love to do it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. It was good seeing you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.